Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the second cup. Thank you for being here. Thanks, Martin. Hey, Matthias, good to see you, man. Yeah, I took a few days off. I think everybody knows there's a bunch of stuff going on in the world. Cheers, by the way, for the second cup of coffee today. I'm a little late on it. This is the second cup, episode 8.5, because episode 8 was a live stream that I did not very long after I heard about the killing of George Floyd, and I wanted to do something musical, and then I discovered that I had a lot to say, and I said a lot, and I don't know what happened to it. I'm going to err on the side of attributing it to my inability to use my devices. But I understand that I may have been a bit emotional too, and that maybe YouTube did not see it fit to be put up because I was very emotional. So I don't have the ability to go back and address what I said and what I said inarticulately, if that is the case. So I apologize for that. So this is 8.5. The piece I just played is a piece that I wrote a few years ago entitled Hope Springs Eternal. And no mystery, I've been willing to talk openly about my issues with depression. And this is one of the pieces that I wrote as I was starting to go through stuff, not even with the idea in mind of it being on the record at that particular point. This one just came as a musical meditation. It was a beautiful spring day. I was sitting out on my back deck, and the birds were singing, and the weather was just beautiful and perfect. And I was just improvising, and somehow I managed to improvise almost that entire arrangement completely, and capture it on my phone. Which I got fortunate with that I had my phone with me and I was able to capture that as I pulled it into what is going to be that will be on the new record drive. Um, and The arrangement really hasn't changed. I may have dusted up a few details, and I did not play it very well today, um, as I've not played it in a while. But that's it. And the spirit of it is really just hope, really, for myself. And I think that's a really important message right now. Hey, Mark. Hey, Brad. Good to see you. Hey, Nate. Good to see you, man. Sorry you guys jumped in little late. I just finished playing the tune. So I'm just talking about it a little bit now. But I'm going to try to keep this short so anybody who wants to go back and see that doesn't have to suffer through an hour long rant of me just talking about current event stuff. But I think that's important. Um, that the piece is obviously very emotional to me, and it really typifies what's probably going to be um, the record drive. I think it's going to show a lot of stuff, and it's not a shred record. Um, and in even more of a way that 205 was not a shred record. It's got moments of some guitar playing that I'm very proud of technically. But I'm really more interested in the arrangements and stuff like that. I'm going to leave the shred stuff to the experts. There's plenty of guys that I'm fans of and I'm so inspired of and are friends of mine that are just they're killing that game. And I'm going to support them and lift them up. And they're kind of satiating my own need to play like that, because I hear everybody doing it so well that I recognize that if I need to hear it and I know I can put on a record and enjoy that, I get a similar satisfaction to doing it myself. Um, Especially when I look at artists like Tosin Abasi, um, or Wes Montgomery or Jimi Hendrix or Charlie Christian, Tony McAlpine. Not all are shred guitar players exactly, but Al Joseph, another incredible guitar player that I'm super aware of and love his playing too. Just there's so many great, amazing musicians out there, just so inspiring that I love to study it and get inside of it. And I'll point to it if you're not following Tosin Abasi in particular on YouTube. He put up a lesson about a thing that he calls selective picking that is fascinating. And even though he's playing 8-string electric guitar, I think it's a technique that all of us can draw from. It's really cool. It's got a really fascinating rhythmic tonal component to it that I think it's worth digging into for everybody, not just people who are into progressive instrumental music. It's really great, man. I'm really excited about it and digging into it with my own studies. And the thing that I loved about it the most is that it's different enough from everything else that I'm doing that it really contributes to this otherworldly kind of sound that even playing traditional chords and chord voicings that I'm very familiar with, but it makes those things sound like they're from outer space. Like he's done a really cool thing with that. So I highly recommend going and checking out Tosin's YouTube page, and his band Animals as Leaders is incredible as well. They've got several records out, and I was fortunate enough I got to meet Tosin at a clinic he did at the Atlanta Institute of Music. Um, I think that was in the spring of 2012, so it's been a few years. It was fascinating to hear him discuss all the different approaches and philosophies of technique and discipline and writing and theory and stuff. Like he's definitely a guy to get involved with if he's not on your radar. I highly suggest that maybe he should be. But I got to have a very brief conversation with him as I was I queued up in the meet and greet after the clinic, and exchanged a few words. And just what a remarkable guy too, just very gracious. And yeah, I'm a fan for sure. Um, so yeah, that's about that. But I think you'll be interested in my new record, and that it's going to be a much more stuff like this, where this composition for me is more about the difficulties in the study of dynamics. Not all that different from maybe a bolero, but in that kind of a way where really paying specific attention to dynamics, not so much about the virtuosity of impossible passages. I feel like stuff like this song is very performable. It's got some beautiful chord voicings, and the thing that I like about playing this way and writing this way is it really allows me to just languish in the harmony and the relationship between tonal centers, and how they brighten each other, and just somehow just a shift of a chord can all of a sudden sound like a question. So yeah, hopefully you'll check that out, and let me know what you think about that. But it will be on the new record as I get back to work on that. Um, on another point, very quickly, to sort of sum up this stream, and I'll do a tiny guitar lesson, or at least an explanation of why I'm picking rather than finger picking a piece like that. If you guys are into that, um, I don't think I'm doing anything life changing or anything with that stuff. It's normally I would approach that kind of a tune finger style, but there's a visceral nature to the plectrum that I think helps me with the dynamics, and also adds to the challenge of that. It's uh, it's a lot easier to play a chord delicately finger style. It's a challenge to do that with a hard plectrum, and this is a Dunlop Ultex Jazz 3. I don't even know if it tells me what the millimeter of this. My good friend Rob Balducci gave me this years ago. He knew I was a Jazz 3 guy, and I usually use the Tortex variety, or the Delrin variety of material for this. But this has been, my pick shape of choice for a long time, as well as the thickness. I think that's somewhere around 1.14, maybe. I'm not so sure about that, but I think that's close in there. Just really nice. The Ultex material wears a little bit differently, which I like, which is why Rob gave that to me probably 10 years ago. And I still have it, and I haven't worn it down yet. Not that I use it every day, but it's great. Um, so anyway, that's why I played that piece with a plectrum. Um, I did want to talk about my being offline, at least doing the second cup thing, because this is for me really just to make myself accountable, to show up and be creative every morning. I've been struggling with that not only through these last few years of my depression and just stepping back from that particular subsection of my career, um, but the shelter in place stuff really put me in a bizarre place. And as I've talked to friends of mine who are poets and authors, novelists, composers, guitar players, musicians of all instruments and genres, it's been a really interesting thing where we all sort of we feel creative, um, and yet still have a really hard time just putting pen to paper, or sitting. I have to play some a little bit every day, otherwise I'm going to lose my calluses. And all the guitar players on here, I know you relate to that. um, so this is part of that, just the holding myself accountable to, when I am able to get back to work, to not have to wear a hole in my finger when I do decide to play something, and also have the strength and dexterity to actually do the thing that I want to do, and that requires tending and gardening. So this is about that, just making sure that my first thoughts of the day, I have my cup of coffee and it's been good. I wake up and I think about doing something, and it's been a lot of just improvisation. I haven't been playing so many songs until today, um, and it's just this was what was on my heart and my mind today. Um, but something happened last week, and it was horrifying. And I know we're dealing with it everywhere. And I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, where there's a whole lot of trouble, as there is a lot of places. And it hasn't felt right to promote anything that is self-serving. Um, and I think I'm at peace with that. I'm okay with that. To a fault, I had a gig. I've only had two gigs since we've started the whole shelter in place thing, and this was the second gig. And it was out in North Georgia in a on a patio venue, so it's open air, and everybody's social distancing and doing all the appropriate things. Um, and then it just didn't seem like I had a hard time even just promoting people to come out to that gig. So I owe all apologies to my good friends John McKnight and John Schwanke and the venue Rocco's, for just not doing my part to promote that gig to the professional level that I am accountable to do. That is on me. Um, it just didn't feel right to do it. Not that it wasn't worthy of promoting, just with everybody needing to have this very difficult conversation that we're all engaging in right now. Um, just seemed like it's not something that I wanted to put on anybody's mind to distract them, because I didn't necessarily have a positive weight of saying, "Hey, let's get outside of our heads for a few minutes and maybe just celebrate some music." Because I know I didn't necessarily feel like celebrating with music either. Um, so I didn't mean for it to be any kind of a protest. It's just kind of the way the last week has shaped up to be. Um, and then the idea of the music industry doing the Blackout Tuesday yesterday, I thought that was a brilliant point. And there were a lot of great suggestions of what we could all do with it. And the sentiment really was, hey, we're going to unplug. We're not going to promote our own stuff. We are not going to necessarily work in the industry on that subsection of what we do. But we're gonna check in with ourselves, and we're gonna listen, and we're gonna check in with our communities and our families, and um, just get a good read and a good assessment on where we are. And I thought that was a brilliant and beautiful, loving, elegant way of protesting, to make not just a point to the world, but as a way of holding ourselves accountable. Me as an artist, I want my music to be important. It's important to me, certainly, um, but I'd like for all the effort that I put into it that it's more than just some cool guitar music. That hopefully it has some way of shining a light into the world. And I know with songs like "Peace Be With You" on the 2 of 5 record, um, I've had very dear friends of mine who I've known for years who, as they were going through cancer treatments with chemotherapy and things like that, and they put together their playlists of music to listen to meditate on, and just to find inspiration and hope. Um, they reached out and let me know that that's one of the songs that meant so much to them, and that they made it on their playlists. And even just in that very small way, is humbling. And I recognize the impact and the power of music and expression and arts, and the responsibility of the energy that we put out into the world, and the message to the best of of our ability to articulate. And I want to be accountable for not just showing up, but also for the energy that I put out into the world. So yesterday, and really all last week too, but yesterday was really the main point of the Blackout Tuesday thing. Um, I took the day off, and for me, I needed to just really get involved with some of the people that are the very closest to me, my mother and father. my siblings, my very best friends, um, people that they have raised me to be the person that I am, and hopefully have the principles that I want to demonstrate, and write me when I'm wrong, and correct me, but also listen to me, and 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 embrace me with love when I need that. And I did recognize as I'm struggling with what I need to do to contribute my voice to what's going on right now. And I know for most everybody that follows me, I know a lot of that is a bit of preaching to the choir, but I also don't want to take that for granted. Um, I think everybody who keeps up with me knows, but I want to make sure everybody knows where I am with that stuff. And for anybody who doesn't know me, I absolutely want to make sure people know where my heart and my conscience is and my principles are with that stuff. Um, and my depression has made it very hard. I have sat down for it's been years now. It's been 4 years, and my depression started before that, but I sat down 4 years ago, and it's time to get up. And I'm getting outside of my head, and I'm recognizing that it was okay. It was a healing time for me, and I don't regret it. I don't have guilt for wasting time. I know we don't have an inexhaustible amount of time in this life. Um, I am aware of that, but I have a hard time with kindness for myself, um, and I needed to show myself that kindness. And I appreciate everybody who's been reaching out to me and listening to me and just sharing their kindness for me to support me as I've gone through this process. And I recognize that I haven't reached out as much as I've needed to, which is what I spent my day doing yesterday, talking with my mother and father and my siblings and my immediate, um, to put my pride down and just acknowledge that I've needed help, and to apologize for not asking, and that I'm getting out of my head, and that I'm asking for help. I've seen counselors, and I've been looking for help in those ways, but I've had some of my very best friends call me, and I've had the phone in my hand, and I've just not been able to answer the phone because I don't want to burden them with what I've been going through. Not because I don't think they can help or they don't want to help. I just I haven't felt like I've been worthy of that much of their attention, and that's something that I'm dealing with, and I'm fighting with, and I'm getting on the right side of that. And as I think about what we're dealing with right now as a society, as this beautiful country, America, this idea, this philosophy, this community, this multicultural community, and all of the history, and all of the scars, and all of the pain, and it's just this is just our time to deal with this and recognize those who have come before us who have dealt with this to the best of their ability, and we just got to show up. And in the same way that I need to be accountable for myself, I understand that I can get outside of my head when I put myself into service of others. So um, I've had several friends reach out to me about the second cup thing, letting me know that this has been meaningful for them too, as they've been processing things going on, not just with the shelter in place, but now with uh, all of the systemic racism and everything that has come to a boiling point. Um, and I don't know that I have, answers for myself. I have questions. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. We are going through the stages of grief over all of these things, and outrage and anger are all parts of those things. And I'm wanting to be very careful and measured that, you know, I believe the answer is love, and I believe the answer is empathy and understanding. And I just want to contribute my voice to that. Um, because I think I can do some good work there. And I just want to encourage everybody to find their way and their voice in whatever way that can be. And it may just be as simple as just make sure you are loving your children and your family and your immediate sphere of influence in supporting them in all the ways you can, even if it's just uh, making sure everybody has enough to eat and everybody is okay, and just checking in with everybody and just sharing that. I think that's really important. And while this has been an allegory for me to just check in with myself, I want to take this opportunity with this. I want to keep doing this as often as I can, um, as a way to check in on everybody that is wanting to be checked in on and needing to be checked in on too. So thank you guys for that. I greatly appreciate it. Um, yeah, I'm sure I'll speak a lot about this. I'm really trying to figure out how to articulate my thoughts best, because I think there's good medicine in what a great many of us are wrestling with. I believe we're largely all unified on the right things, and language and the difficulty of talking about these things are, they're hard, but they're worth it. They're very much worth it. And as I reflect, and yesterday, I will admit, was one of the best days of my life. Yesterday was, and it was a hard day, and it was one of the best days of my life. Just connecting with my family in ways that I've not had the courage to do in a very long time, and I really feel like it's a similar, that courage for what we need to do for each other is, it comes from the same place, and that same place of empathy and willingness to be expressive, and also the willingness to listen when we don't know what to say. Um, so I'm finding my voice in it, and where I'm inarticulate, I'm willing to listen to help articulate my message better, because I think it's the way. I think it's the way. To be a little crass about it, a spoonful of sugar does help the medicine go down, but if the medicine is good, stacking a pile of shit on it is certainly not going to help anybody want to take that medicine. And there is medicine here, and I just want to make sure that I, whatever my contributions are, it gets to the point. It's not about anything else other than this is what's good for our families, and this is what's good for us, and good for our communities, and good for our nation, and good for all people. I will leave it with this, and I'll probably say it a whole lot. I i i have never been the person who wants to be on the side of, i I don't see color, because I think the sentiment is close, but that's also very dismissive to people who don't feel like they're seen, and people that don't feel like they're heard. And there's a lot of people in my life, and I will speak on it in detail. Um, I live a life of abundance because of the relationships that I have, and I'm truly blessed for the men and women that have been in my life, and continue to be in my life, that I work with, and are just my family, my extended family. Not all family is blood. We all know this, um, but I do want to see color. I want to see all the individual, unique details of everyone and celebrate them. That's my message today, and that's a place where hope can spring from. So I just want to thank everybody, and I've realized I've spoken a little longer than I intended to. So thank you guys for chipping in. Thank you. Will, love you too. I love all of you. Thank you. Um, Last point. I know I've been putting up things about things. I've put my Cash App and PayPal and Venmo stuff in the description, because people were asking if they could help me out while I'm not able to perform right now. And I have greatly appreciated the generosity of so many, for that. Thank you. Um, uh, I would say that I'm doing better than a lot of musicians that I know. So if you have it on your heart to give to me, it certainly helps me, because I'm not in the best place. But I know people are struggling more. So I would say to you, if you have limited resources yourself, but you want to help anybody, look for opportunities to find artists who I'm really blessed that I've been giving music lessons all over the internet, and I've been able to work in that way during this time. And it's uh, it's humbling and that's what's allowing me to be in a little bit of a better place. So times are not completely desperate for me. So if you know artists that are struggling in that way, if you can have a kindness for them, please look for their live streams. Please buy their records. Artists, authors, buy their books, buy their works of art, buy their T-shirts, their mugs, their music books, buy lessons from them. I know so many friends who are working this way right now, and outside of the larger sphere of just the music community, do what you can where you are. I'm really inspired by what Eric Johnson is doing by putting up brief guitar lessons online, and just he's picked his cause to say, hey, just please, if you can, donate what you can to your local food bank. There's a lot of people who don't have enough to eat right now, especially kids who, the only meal they get is when they're at public school, and we literally took all of our kids out of school. So there's a lot of families that could be lifted up in that way. So if I certainly appreciate anything that you feel in your heart to throw my way, and I'm looking for my ways that I can give back out into the community that way. I'm turning the money that I can back around to buy art from my friends and from artists, and to give everything where I can too. So um, that is that's a very important thing. So I would encourage you, if you have it to give it where you feel it's going to do the best work. And I promise you, I'm doing the same thing and trying to just spread that light around. So um, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Matthias. I greatly appreciate you too, brother. Um, my email address for guitar lessons, it's Mike205Martin at gmail.com. So it's the same name as my YouTube channel. So if you're inclined to ask me any questions about that, or even beyond that, if you would like to take lessons with me yourself, whether they're guitar lessons or if you have questions about songwriting or recording or career advice or wrestling with music theory, whatever instrument you are focusing on, I would love to help you out with that stuff. If you know a young person that maybe can't afford to take some music lessons, I'm donating my time in lessons to. It's not really a scholarship program, but if you know somebody that you would just like to encourage to get to take some lessons, I would love to be able to continue to offer that and put myself in service to others, because I think music is one of the multicultural ways that we can find positive ways. Maybe it doesn't solve everything, but we can't stop doing the positive things while we're dealing with the hurtful things. We can't stop those things. I just want to do those things myself with a purpose for that, and contribute that. So thank you guys. And again, I'm going to end that stream for anybody who jumped on late and didn't get to hear that piece, Hope Springs Eternal. You'll be able to check that out. And I just appreciate you taking the time so very much. Thank you. All right. Well, we'll see you very soon. All right.